This program is brought to you in partnership with UNDP in Botswana. With its scenic views and adventures in the wilderness, Maun is undoubtedly one of Botswana's tourism hubs. And while that subject is certainly fascinating in its own right, the matter that actually brings us to Ngamiland region today is our continued pursuit of the network of small and medium enterprises, all connected via the UNDP Supplier Development Programme. When the UNDP Supplier Development Programme was launched in 2018 in Botswana, it brought together a diversity of value chains. From agro-processing, leather and textiles, health, mining and others. These areas of the economy are largely charged with catapulting the business environment in Botswana to greater heights by creating employment and helping to alleviate poverty. The mining sector is one of the largest buyers of the services of the SMEs, and the UNDP SDP is rightly placed to ease the business relations between these two.
Khoemacau is a mining and exploration company. We mine copper on the Kalahari Copper Belt. Khoemacau mines at Cossack mine. Cossack is 90 kilometers from Maun, about 25 kilometers out of Toteng, in the Kalahari Copper Belt. Khoemacau has shared values with the UNDP in line with developing local suppliers. We believe that we need to involve the immediate community, communities surrounding the mine. We believe that we need to give them fair and equal opportunities as we give companies outside, and they're our neighbors, they're our stakeholders. So we believe in giving them an opportunity to trade with the mine. First selected companies which were on our database. After identifying those companies, we brought them on board, and they ranged from service providers, maintenance companies, companies that provide merchandise, companies that sell stuff. We had a consulting company on board, a gentleman who is a consultant. We have companies which sell a range of products from cleaning material to PPE, and I'd like to say it benefited the mine a lot to have these companies in the program. All the companies have improved in terms of admin. Their paperwork is more organized. The quotations are more, they communicate more to us. There's improvement in terms of turnaround times. We used to wait for 3 weeks to get an order for shirts, for PPE. I'm happy to say now we wait for max 7 days from a local supplier. They've improved the supply chain a lot. They've improved their sourcing strategy. They've improved their logistics. They plan better. They focus on lines that actually sell, and the whole experience of dealing with a supplier who's trained now, who's gone through the program, is much, much better.
The participation of the SMEs in the program calls for commitment, as it helps sharpen their own business practices and potentially increase their turnover. The supply list of the SDP is multifaceted, presenting us with enterprises of varying specialties. And with that, we now cross over to Cossack, who deal with refrigeration, air conditioning and electrical work.
Cossack basically started about 10 years ago. We came to Maun, left Pakalani working for people, big companies, corporates, and moved up to Maun. We got to Maun and we started off with Cossack. Cossack basically is an air conditioning, refrigeration and electrical company, basically doing anything refrigeration, not just air conditioning, and refrigeration in detail. Electrical also, subcontracting to companies to do the electrical works. We moved here, 10 years came, and we started off with a team of 4 people and expanded from 4 to 8 and then expanded to 12. We then in 2018, I opened up a branch in Palape. We then hooked up with a company called Browl. Browl is a property company, one of the biggest property maintenance companies in South Africa. It's called Browl Properties RSA. They came to us and asked us to start taking over all the Jet and Edgar stores. That was in 2020 March. And then with COVID that came in, it put us on hold, but we were still doing a bit of repairs for them in the Botswana region. The help that we received from the UNDP side was at least the one-on-one on our staff members. That was the main help that I had received. Additional to that, the additional help was the financial side of it, to understand the business in detail, where we're going to, where's our objectives, and where our targets are. In the past, it was just run, because being a family business, it was run day to day, and there's targets that we had to meet, and there's targets that we had to get to. And our obligation at the end of the day, where do we want to get? Where do we want this business to be in 10 years' time? That is at least an eye-opener from the UNDP program that made us open our eyes to say, right, we can do it. We've been doing things wrong. Now we need to do things the way it should be. Cossack is definitely going to open up the Gaborone branch in the next month or so. I'm in the pipeline already trying to secure premises, and I need to move some guys up to Gaborone, and I'm busy employing another 3 or 4 guys to run the Gaborone branch. On the Gaborone branch, we tend to find that head office is in Gabs of all these groups. So we needed somebody in Gaborone to do that. And we need that backbone so that we got our branch there to try and facilitate all that.
Prime time life. Prime time life.
Workwear, camping gear, safari gear, canvas work and embroidery. These are all services whose provisions are often sought by the mining industry. And any enterprise with the wisdom to supply those under one roof stands at an advantageous point, more so if they've been inducted through the Supplier Development Programme.
Our director was more involved in the construction of lodges and campsites. Then we found a gap in the market where we could open a shop and supply the tourism industry with the uniforms they could use. Our company was established in 2014. Way back, our director was more involved in the construction industry. He was constructing lodges and campsites, also maintenance of those lodges and campsites. Then he found a gap in the market where he opened 3 Lions Workwear. The main aim was to supply the tourism industry with the uniforms. The uniforms he was supplying, he was more supplying uniforms to be used by the front to the back of house. By that I mean from the receptionist, talking managers, housekeeping, cleaners, guides, and the security as well. Our main target was the tourism industry, the government, private companies, and the locals themselves. Initially, we only have 1 branch operating in Maung, and we will be opening another branch in Khansi by the end of June. At first, we were doing an order-based kind of service, where we would order stuff for our clients directly from the supplier, and we deliver them to the clients ourselves. We were working with about 2 employees by then. Then as the company grows and the market was growing, we employed more people to 10 employees. Since the introduction to the UNDP program, we have managed to gain access into the mining industry, and we are interacting more with the buyers. We have also identified new markets in other areas, and we currently are planning on opening another branch in the Khansi area where we'll be supplying tourism with uniforms, and we'll be also providing embroidery services and the canvas manufacturing. One of the services provided by Three Lions includes the embroidery services. By embroidery services, we mean the printing of logos onto the garments which we supply and the ones which are supplied by our buyers. For our embroidery services, we use our 15-header Khoemacau embroidery machine. The way this machine works, the logo is designed in a point form to guide the needles into coming up with the final art.
Canvas work, we normally deal with canvas. We manufacture car seats. We do tents. We make big tents for the safaris. The team, we are two of us, me and my assistant. For example, per day, like let's say we are doing the seat covers for the cars. Normally we do 2 per day. And if you are doing director's chairs, it's about 20 per day. When we do tents, normal tents is for a tent it's a big job because we have to cut and join. So normally we do 3 tents per day.
Magic Concept is a Maun-based company that specializes in signage and branding. And since signs like this, which lean heavily on messaging about safety, health, and other valuable notifications are commonplace in the mining sector, it's no wonder why the SDP was an essential element in bringing this company to the future.
We started off just doing embroidery, but then we sort of expanded a little bit and got into signage and just other general branding stuff like promotional materials and stuff. And then with time we found an opportunity in the customs and clearing industry. So that was started in 2016. We started off in Maun, currently have offices at Martinstrip border and Kazumbula. And then we also continued in Maun, where it started. So that's our main line of business at the moment. And what brought us to the UNDP Supplier Development Programme was our work we did with Khoemacau mine. And initially we started just doing safety signs for them, and then they started engaging us and doing other promotional stuff, printing, and then eventually we also started doing customs clearance for them, which we continue to do now. Unfortunately, the past year and a half and stuff like that, we've gone through this whole COVID-19 pandemic, and it's changed a lot in terms of our daily running of a business. But generally, I feel we still have a brighter future. There are a lot of things that we've picked up from the program, from the suppliers and stuff like that, the client, that we can use to get to our other clients. We've learned a lot, especially feedback. When you have feedback from your client, you know where to improve, and you know how to actually grow your business, because getting all the constructive criticism from them is actually what's great, I think, because you can now better yourself. And I think that's what has helped us in growing our business and also being able to start off another business just from being there. We found a little niche in the market for clearing in the Maung area at the time. The clearing company that was there was closed. And because we used to get our products through the airport and stuff like that, that's when I found an advantage that I could maybe try and find out what you really need to get into that business. I went to BRS. They gave me all the requirements. I worked on them, and eventually we got the business. And now it has expanded to Martin's Drift border, like I said, and recently Kasungula border. So as you go, as you learn, you find opportunities, and sometimes you just calculate and see if it's an opportunity that is worth taking or not.
Prime time life. Prime time life.
The consultant is one arm of the tripartite, appointed to closely monitor the progress of the program. They take the participants through skills development to help their businesses.
When we assign these suppliers, we basically take them through a 6-stage methodology. You know, the first part is just where we basically introduce the program, you know, formalize agreements, we set targets, and agree on goals. Having done that, we then go into the businesses now and do the second stage, which is that of the diagnostic stage. During that stage, we do a full assessment on the financial side of the business, the technical side, the operational side, with a view of identifying challenges that the business might be facing. Once we've done that, we then remember, this whole process happens between us and the supplier, and also between us and the buyer. Having done that, we then put the buyer and the supplier together during an interaction meeting, where we now present our findings to say, when it comes to the supplier, these are the challenges that we identified. When it comes to the buyer, these are the concerns that they had regarding the products or the services that are provided to them. And then we all agree on solutions, what needs to be done in order to solve these problems. After doing that, I think the next stage is to now go back to the drawing board, design improvement plans. You know, we plan activities that need to be done to address those challenges they were raised by the buyers, they were raised by the suppliers. You know, we assign our responsibilities. When I, as a buyer, this is what you need to do. When I, as a supplier, this is what you need to take care of. Once that is done, that's when implementation starts. That is when now the real work starts of consultancy. This is where we now start guiding them. Let's say maybe the challenge was in terms of maybe the lead time. You know, we would have gone through the whole procurement process to find out what causes the delay, how can we, you know, shorten the delivery time. And we monitor and see is there any improvement. On the buyer side, if the issue was maybe the supplier felt that they were not getting enough support, we make sure they interact a lot, they communicate a lot, so that they can address whatever concerns that are there. That usually should be enough to, you know, resolve the issues between the buyers and suppliers, and putting the suppliers in a position where they can get more business now from the buyer company.
The program itself is to assist big buyers and small suppliers who supply the buyers to improve how they work together, in terms that, for example, the suppliers have to provide quality products to the buyer and also provide them on time. Now, my main role actually is to make sure that happens by involving myself in both the buyers and also in the with the suppliers. And this is normally achieved through the UNDP project, SDP, where we take the suppliers and the buyers through a 6-stage process in terms of trying to improve the relationship between the two of them, and also the supply chain for both the suppliers and the buyers. Generally, my role is to be a facilitator in that process. The first thing which you have noticed that these are normally quite small suppliers. So they don't have internal processes on how they operate their companies. And that is always a bottleneck. No matter how much they try, the individual who owns the company or who's running the company could be very, very brilliant and knows exactly what he wants to do. But because they don't have management processes, they are hindered in trying to progress. That is why one of the main issues, for example, which in my case, I discovered that they need to have proper annual budgeting, for example. And those were actually, I designed those actually. And we, with the companies, actually they started doing annual budgets. Obviously, because of the shortness of the program, they've only done one so far, drafted it, which I looked at, which is fine. And hopefully they will be carrying that forward for the coming years. The one also most crucial for small businesses is lack of finance. They may have brilliant ideas of what they want to do, but without the capital to implement, really, they never achieve what they wanted. Now, what UNDP does is actually also link the small suppliers to financial institutions like banks. For example, UNDP had identified a list of banks and financial institutions who are in their database also, who we actually take suppliers to them and they discuss and they understand the financial problems of the supplier and see a way of how they can finance them, which is actually a very, very big plus for the program.
Prime Time Live.
Well, that marks the conclusion of our episode here today, but be sure to tune in again soon as we unravel the intricacies of the SDP. Until then, it's good night and God bless. This program was brought to you in partnership with UNDP in Botswana.